The study of philosophy, which literally means love of knowledge, is one of the most important subjects and disciplines known to humanity. There is hardly a civilization throughout human history that doesn't have a tradition of philosophy, and our own Islamic civilization, in all of its plurality and diversity, is no exception. And despite what we Sunnis think as the common narrative, that Imam al-Ghazali dealt a death blow to philosophy, this is actually incorrect and misunderstood. There are philosophical inquiries found in every single Islamic subject, from grammar to tafsir, Sufism to jurisprudence, history to logic. Muslim scholars, acknowledging that our intellect is the greatest gift Allah Ta'ala has given us, what is referred to in Revelation as a nafs, they took every opportunity to engage in philosophical inquiry, often taking a comparative approach and conversing with other traditions, using and exercising this central human faculty. In the vast study of philosophy, there are numerous subfields: epistemology, the nature of knowledge; metaphysics, the nature of reality; ethics, logic, etc. Yet there is one particular branch that is rarely talked about: aesthetics, dedicated to study the nature of art and beauty. But since beauty is one of those hard things to define and articulate, it is no surprise that many don't study it or bother to consider it. By not studying aesthetics, however, we might falsely conclude that it is not important and irrelevant to our lives, a conclusion many make of the study of philosophy itself. This is a grave mistake. The truth of the matter is that the concept of aesthetics surrounds almost all aspects of our life and something we encounter in nearly every hour of the day. The products that we buy, the food that we consume, every article of clothing that we wear were constructed, designed, and crafted with some perspective and claim to a specific expression of aesthetics. It's true that this particular expression of aesthetics is done for consumer and commercial purposes, but it's there. And it would be foolish to think that the things in our lives that surround us have no design and are value neutral. And the same goes, by the way, for technology. Platforms, AI tools, LLMs, and devices we all use with increasing frequency are all based on a particular worldview and a set of first principles by those who design, market, and sell them. It is essential for us to acknowledge, therefore, with brutal honesty, that at many times, perhaps more times than we would like to admit, we are pawns in someone else's game, the users in someone else's design. And we are in fact adopting and tacitly accepting someone else's paradigm and principles. Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions, I'm not advocating some sort of revolution against technology, although a practice of unplugging would do us all well, especially me. I simply want us to be aware of this, that it is an essential part of our day-to-day lives. For to chart a behavioral change, we must first correctly identify our reality. So, aesthetics is not really random or unimportant after all, even though people argue that it is too difficult to grasp, learn, and teach. And even though many who engage in the study of a philosophy ignore it altogether. In Islam, the issue of aesthetics is not considered difficult and complicated, and it is not considered unimportant or irrelevant. To the contrary, it is one of the most important aspects of our religion's message. The Prophet ﷺ taught us, Allahu Jameel, yuhibbul jamal. Allah is beauty, and He loves that which is beautiful. Beauty for us, therefore, mimics the absolute and divine qualities of our Creator, which we find in His divine names and attributes. Beauty connects us to the first principles of our belief and are meant to surround everything a Muslim does and thinks. And to help us understand this, our entire way of life The aspects of worship and our traditions are directly connected to Allah Ta'ala, and therefore all opportunities to tap into this divine beauty. From architecture to poetry, clothing to urban design, the concept of divine beauty has been a guiding principle of the Islamic civilization. More immediate for us, let us consider our annual practice of fasting. Ramadan is one of those special acts of worship that includes so many others within it: prayer, fasting, Quran, dua, charity, and if you haven't given to ICCP, you can give to ICCP. All of these individual acts of worship allow us not only to practice, but experience what I typically call the art of Islam. It allows an unobstructed gush of divine light and beauty through us that transforms not only our personal life, but our community life as well. It fills our homes, schools, businesses, and of course our sacred spaces with beauty unmatched throughout the month. Now I hope you will agree that these comments are appropriate as we commemorate the passing of the blessed month of Ramadan. And we ask Allah Ta'ala to accept from us our fasting and all of our devotion. But I have another motive in mind. This year of 2026, with just nearly one quarter completed, has been tumultuous for our nation. And the events of this past month in particular have been anything but beautiful and inspiring. We have been inundated with negativity, hate, and violence. It almost seems that the country that we love and cherish, where we grew up, went to school, fell in love, started a family, worshipped as a community, is soon becoming extinct. We have heard and continue to hear some of the most hateful and bigoted rhetoric from many corners. It seems that doom and gloom surround every conversation, every commentary. But it is important to take a step back and realize that to feel like this is itself a result of adopting someone else's principles and aesthetics. For not only are the material things that we consumed backed by principles and design, but so too the public narrative and talking points. And this is also found in an almost limitless manner in the online conversation that seems to go on and on forever, buttressed by algorithms that themselves are biased and skewed, a far cry from the claim that they are bastions of free speech. So much for Vox Populi, Vox Dei. There is a paradigm, a set of principles, an approach to aesthetics, if you will, meant to agitate us, scare us, intimidate us to believe in a world that is ugly and its people evil. Add to this the unfettered and fanatical messianism, the poison of all religions, and you have the ingredients for indiscriminate killing and endless conflict and war. If we insist on being consumers only, then we are doomed to be helpless against this onslaught. If we insist on being consumers only, we are destined to be slaves to these principles, pawns in this game, negative in our outlook. We will quickly not only become darkened on the inside, but what's worse is we will start to believe this false and empty rhetoric. Now, I want to challenge us today to chart a different future, a better tomorrow. Our way, our tradition, our faith does not allow us to give in to the darkness. It does not allow us to give up hope. This being one of the greatest sins that the Prophet ﷺ cautioned against. Rather, we are taught, Allahu Jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Allah Ta'ala tells us in the Quran that those who believe have the greatest love of the Lord. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. So we are in need on this blessed day to remember our first principles. If we believe that Allah Ta'ala is the creator of creation, which He is, then we must remember that this creation is beautiful. If we believe that Allah Ta'ala created us, which He did, then we must remember that there is beauty in all of us. And if we believe that Allah Ta'ala controls events, which He most certainly does, then we must remind ourselves that there is always a pathway to good. So there is no room in our faith, in our identity, in our tradition to look at the world with such negativity. And as we all emerge from this mighty experience of Ramadan, we know that despite the darkness, evil, negativity, and racism that surrounds us, there is still good, there is still beauty. We know this with certainty because we have felt it, tasted it, experienced it, observed it, and bore witness to this beauty. Allahu jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Not only is there no room for this negativity, there is no room for us to consume these deadly and repugnant ideas. As Muslims, we have been commanded to build, not to destroy, to create, not to imitate, to bring together, not to split asunder, to coexist with all, not to hate. So let us on this day of Eid renew our commitment to these values. There is no room for us to consume the rhetoric of hate and violence, for we are obligated to not only hold to beauty, but we are also obligated to be people of beauty and spread this beauty to all around us, regardless of their faith and creed. How can we do this? Well, first we must be reminded of this most sacred and immutable first principle. Allahu jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Allah is beauty and He loves that which is beautiful. We need to make sure that this is placed deep within our souls through an unwavering adherence to our faith and its ethics, since it is through the practice of Islam that we practice this beauty on a daily basis. We must then ensure that beauty is a central value in all what we do. There is no task, no chore that is devoid of the opportunity to practice beauty and excellence. As the Prophet ﷺ taught us, إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَتَبَ الْإِحْسَانَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Allah Ta'ala has demanded excellence in and upon everything. Therefore, by holding to the principle of beauty, we will start to seek it out in our work, in our speech, in our conduct, in our homes, in our schools, in our businesses, and in our mosques. Let us then start to think together of being producers of beauty, not consumers of hate. I speak here not of producing physical things, for as Dr. Seuss reminded us in his masterful story, The Lorax, we do not need any more needs. We do not need to create a special product, clothing, widget, gadget, etc. What we need to produce is a rhetoric of love and beauty. We need to infuse our every sentence with hope that is so lacking. Let us not forget that one of the forms of charity is a kind word or a smile. And I speak not of an empty rhetoric that is contradictory, but a rhetoric and a narrative backed by our consistent and coherent conduct. There is a particular verse in the Quran that I reflect on frequently. جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا. Truth comes and falsehood vanishes. Indeed, falsehood always vanishes. Switching our mentality from consumer to producer is not a daunting task. It is simply a function of practicing our faith and putting our trust in Allah and walking the path of our beloved sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In the final analysis, we must remember that evil has no power, hatred no strength, darkness no reality. These and their nefarious friends only manifest when there is an absence of light and beauty. It is not enough to denounce these things, however, with statements. We must counter them by choosing to live a life of beauty. Allahu jamilun yuhibbul jamal. And when we so dedicate our lives, as I have every confidence that we can and will, the dawn will break and the sun will shine again.